very interesting profile of our speakers. We have, if we could have on screen, oh yes, we already have it. So thank you so much. So we have people joining us from 4 different places. Dr. Evangelos Angelou-Efendras, who is an international sustainability educator, and welcome to this conclave, Dr. Evangelos. You'll be speaking on innovative ideas for teaching sustainability and experiential learning in the field through mobile educational institutions. We also have with us Mr. Enoch Opariminta, who is joining us from Illuminum. He's a future thought leader. He shall also be contributing his insights into this particular theme today. Mr. John Cannings, the lead educator, joins us. He's from Australia, but he's joining from Switzerland right now. So a lot of interesting conversations that we are looking forward to. And then we have with us from India, Mr. Thiru Venkateshwaran Ramachandran, who's the CEO and co-founder of ClimeUp AI, and he shall also be sharing, his journey and what attracted him towards this particular conclave as well. So let me first invite the speaker for now, and that is our international sustainability educator, Dr. Evangelos Angelou-Efendras. He is a renowned educator and researcher known for his significant contributions in the field of learning, sustainability, organizational communication, and cross-cultural communication, with over 6 decades of teaching and training experience in various countries, including India, Malaysia, Thailand, Oman, Greece, Australia, huge experience, Singapore, US. He has left an indelible impact on education and development worldwide. He has dedicated his career to teaching and training, covering diverse subjects such as child language development, bilingualism, entrepreneurship, management, and communication, and has conducted training workshops on project-based learning, workplace skills, academic discourse, and effective communication. He has a PhD in linguistics from the Johns Hopkins University, and Dr. Efendras has conducted extensive research in areas such as language sciences, society and education, and cross-cultural communication and sustainability. His research findings have been presented at national conferences and published in renowned journals. He is very passionate about sustainability and actively promotes the integration of the 17 SDGs into university learning objectives. He has delivered presentations and keynote addresses on sustainability, crisis communication, and rethinking education in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. And it is my pleasure and privilege to welcome Dr. Efendras. So this is your stage. We would like to hear from you now.
Thank you. And as I said, I'm very happy being with you. Let me see. I need to share my PowerPoint.
Sure.
Basically, I wanted to talk from an autoethnographic perspective, experiences that I have been through in decades of study and teaching, learning and teaching. And how I eventually sort of came into sustainability as an issue. I have had several cases of what I call cosmic communication, and this is one of them. Very briefly, I was in a film fest in Athens here at the University of Political and Social Sciences, and it was about cinema, a particular set of cinemas in the center of Athens back in the 1950s when I was in secondary school. And I made a comment because it was missing from the documentary about this particular cinema, that cutting school and missing classes but going to cinema is what brought me to Indian classic film. And I remember particularly Madhubala. Now, I mentioned and informed the filmmaker, and he thanked me because he was totally unaware of this. He was half my age, by the way, so no direct experience. And it was just a couple of days after this experience that brought me back to my first contact with Indian culture in my youth, that Mr. Anand contacted me and ultimately invited me to this event. One of my colleagues recommended me to World Campus Afloat out of Chapman College in California. And they invited me and hired me to teach for one semester. And that was the first time that I experienced formal education, because for me, sailing around on ships in the Greek, Aegean, Mediterranean was always a learning occasion. But for the first time, I taught on a floating university down the Pacific coast of Latin America, through the Magellan Straits, and up the east coast, the Atlantic coast of Latin America, across to Africa, and finally into the Mediterranean. For the first time, I was involved in a debate on peace, because while the sailing through the Mediterranean from Marrakesh in Morocco to Istanbul in Turkey, on the auditorium, the amphitheater of the boat, where the total, lectures addressed to the whole student body, I debated with a friend who was a Turkish Jew from Istanbul about the invasion of Cyprus and war, and about peace in the Mediterranean. That is one of our present sustainability development goals, peace. Next. Cumulatively, my experiential learning from being on the floating university was really being with the people concerned in a great array and variety of locales, and what Aristotle called experiential wisdom, phronesis. And this is a concept used widely even in the context of sustainability presently. And I have another quotation from one more of my Omani students, describing his learning. He says, "We memorize the chapters, pass the exam, and then," doing like this next to his head, says, "then we reformat the hard disk for another course," using the computer terminology, ingest. So the innovations that I developed to counter this bad situation was going into problems and projects and negotiated syllabus. In other words, instead of walking into the class and distributing the program of topics and exercises and so on, I walk in and negotiate with them, make them elicit from them what we should study in our topic of business and public communication. And through a certain procedure, which I would love to share with you ultimately, a number of projects came each semester, like Oman after oil, meaning when we don't have to rely on oil for energy anymore, culminating in business plans of proposed sustainability businesses. The second was an integrated eco-friendly development of a governorate in Oman, which touched transport, industry, education, and agriculture. Omani rapid transport linking the north with the south, which was extremely interesting for me because my teams of students touched on everything. And also, for the first time in the studies, used pestle and SWOT analysis, which they had studied in theory but had never used in practice. But they used in this particular course for this particular project. And the last and really influential topic for me was when President Obama was elected as president of the US. And in a speech in Cairo, if I remember correctly, promised peace in the Middle East. At that time, and before and after, we had the Iraqi war and Syria and so on and so forth, and the lasting war in Palestine, of course. So through focus group discussions and other such group activities, we ended up with a project to ask President Obama and other world leaders to divert war spending into funding international peace and development, including in Africa, Asia, the Middle East, and using actually a fleet of floating universities that would go from place to place, and the students would come out and integrate with the local populations and work on sustainability and development projects. And here I have another idea that came to me I noticed this the last week or so. A catamaran boat of quite big dimensions, which is energy independent and totally non-polluting, as it has these big wings on the side that are generating solar energy. This was a project where instead of a traditional examination, we had a feasibility study as an exam. And the students also enjoyed and loved it and learned a hell of a lot.
You know, we talk about pedagogy, we talk about assessments, etc. But what you have very interestingly shared is the change of the venue itself. So I think it was so interesting to see the perspectives on the social milieu, you know, how anthropology, sociology should be so integral towards inculcating the right mindset in our children. I think one very important point that you have touched is that we talk about change, we talk about responsibility towards environment, but we also need to be sensitive to different cultures. We need to be empathetic towards individuals, and in order to enable them to become a part of the journey that we are founding together rather than it being imposed. And I think some of the thoughts you've shared on converting the weapon of destruction to a floating university is very attractive. And I'm sure many of our colleagues would be saying, oh, there is this venue where you have clean energy sales ships and where we can go and teach in our next vacation. So yeah, that's been very interesting. And of course, Dr. Afendras, you have an India connection from a professor of Sanskrit to Madhubala. Welcome. You must visit us and must continue sharing this journey. We'll be very, very happy to host you here in Bangalore, India. So please, such a pleasure, and thank you so much for your thoughts.